pasikalbėkime. Mes šiandieną turime puikią seriją, tikiuosi mūsų klausytojams patiks, su, bijau netaip ištarti jo vardą pavardę,
István Gyarmati.
Va, teisingai. Labai be galo protingas žmogus, akademikas, matosi ir taip neakivaizdžiai, bet matosi, kad žmogus turi tikrai labai tokią gilę patirtį. Bet su juo, aišku, mes kalbėjomės ir ką mūsų klausytojai išgirs vėliau, kalbėjomės būtent apie ateinančius Vengrijos rinkimus, apie Trumpo draugystę su Orbanu, apie Orbano santykius su Putinu, visą šitą juodą magiją. Bet, manau, svarbu taip pat yra pasikalbėti apie tai, kas vyksta Lietuvoje. Apie visokius ten Nemuno aušros vizitus į Vengriją, apie Kapčiamiesčio poligono balsavimą, kuris kaip tik šiandieną įvyko, bent jau pirminis tas balsavimas, teikiant įsakymą toliau, ir reikėtų apie tai pasikalbėti. Tai, Žygi, kokie visų pirma įspūdžiai iš to, kas vyko Seime šiandieną ir apskritai, kokios nuotaikos šiuo metu vyrauja, sakykime, Lietuvos politikos padangės?
Na ir po to vengro, žinai, man toks įspūdis, kurį galbūt patirs ir mūsų klausytojai. Jis taip įdomiai tos vengrus aprašė, žmonės be tikėjimo, be idealų. Pats Orbanas nelabai ten prorusiškas, jis ir pinigų nori. Bet tos tokie žmonės, žinai...
Patikslinsiu, ne tik pinigų, bet galios. Čia labai priminė man komunistų nomenklatūrą, kuri vargu ir tikėjo kažkokiais Markso ar Lenino pamokslais, bet jiems buvo svarbu turėti galią.
Ir tas aš taip, kai jis taip kalbėjo, aš persikėliau į Lietuvą ir pagavau, iš tikrųjų visi šitie, net ir šiandien, kurie akivaizdžiai balsavo prieš poligoną, daugybė tų žmonių tiesiog yra pinigų ir valdžios ištroškę žmonės, kaip ir visa raudonoji ta dauguma. Tengi nėra ten daug tų kažkokių idealistų, gal vienas kitas, bet realiai yra nomenklatūros žmonės, kurie tiesiog siekia valdžios pinigų. Ir tada supranti, jeigu iš tikrųjų atsiranda autokratinės valstybės, kurios gali duoti daug valdžios ir pinigų, tai labai lengva tokius žmonės įtakoti. Visa šita drama, kuri vyko ir dėl trąšų Baltarusių, kurios uždarė Europos Sąjungą, bet vis tiek, kiek daug triukšmo Lietuvoje, kiek čia tų burnų norinčių pasipenėti, žinai, iš rytų. Na ir tie Nemuno aušros vizitai pas Orbaną, juk vertybės ten nejungia jų. Jie tiesiog siekia kažkokios valdžios, bet siekdami iš esmės sudaro tokią situaciją, kad tu gali parduoti valstybę. Tai kiek čia dar tų žingsnių reikėtų, kad pasiūlus kokių nors pinigų ar valdžios tie žmonės tiesiog pereitų į kitą pusę. Tai dėl to neramu ir realiai, dar šiandien su Laurinu taip kalbėjau, realiai mes beveik vieninteliai liekam tokie idealistai, romantikai, gali sakyti, tikintis kažkokiam vertybėm, turintis kažkokį žmogišką integralumą, partija, kuri vadovaujasi daugiau vidumi, reiškia tais kažkokiais patriotiniais, pilietiniais supratimais, bet aplinkui vieni pragmatikai radikalai. Tai jeigu socdemai šito keliu, jie nužudys savo partiją, aišku, su jomis dar lieka liberalai, bet realiai kito centro, kaip mes, aplink kurį gali vietintis tos patriotinės jėgos, nėra.
Tiesa, aš turiu iš tiesų du gal komentarus, ar tiksliau klausimą po šito komentaro, bet pirmą pasidalinsiu truputį tokia asmeniška galbūt istorija. Per šį savaitgalį, kai vyko tie manau galima jais drąsiai vadinti Lietuvos išdavikais, šitą Nemuno aušros frakciją, bent jau, manau, 2 jų delegatai vyko į šitą SIPE konferenciją Vengrijoje. Labai, tiesą pasakius, nuliūdino. Ne tik, kad nuliūdino, tai yra per silpnas žodis, bet labai pasidarė gėda, gaila ir apuvot, manau, truputį mano jauna širdis, kai aš pamačiau jų komunikaciją. jūs labai gerą postą įkėlėt, aiškindami situaciją, kur jie ten būtent keliauja, kas tokie keliauja ir panašiai. Ir jie atsakė į tą jūsų postą su tokiu pastraipėlę, sakykim, kad jie neva labai stengiasi parodyti ir paaiškinti respublikonams, kurie buvo toje konferencijoje, kokie mes konservatoriai ir ypač jūs, kokie mes esame Amerikos išdavikai. Ir man tai parodė, kad tebūnie pragmatiški žmonės, kurie bet vis tiek iš pamatų neva turėtų dirbti už Lietuvą. Man parodė tas komentaras būtent, kad šitie žmonės nieko panašaus nedaro, jie net per pragmatinius būdus nekovoja ir nesistengia už mūsų valstybę. Tai čia yra viena. Ir man tiesiog labai liūdna pasidarė, norėjau pasidalinti. Ir antras dalykas, jūs kalbate apie, jūs tiksliau kalbėjote apie šitą idealistinį centrą, kuris turi kovoti ir nugalėti, ir jis ant to šiaip pastatyta mūsų valstybė šiuo metu yra, ar ne? Ir kad mes realiai vieninteliai likome. Ar jūs manot, kad gali vėl atsirasti kažkoks, nežinau, partnerius, su kuriais mes galėtume toliau statyti Lietuvą, mūsų tėvynę, ant racionalaus mąstymo, ant idealų, ant vertybių? Ar viskas ėjo tikrai velniop ir veltui čia stengiamės?
Nu, aš dabar prie savo tų mėgstamų barikadų vis atsistoju, matai, man čia tokia pusiau šventa vieta, aš dabar galvoju, gerai, man buvo 19 metų, filosofijos studentas, daugybė žmonių, kaip, ne visi, bet tam tikras procentas išėjo į gatves, ar jie buvo pragmatikai, jie buvo visiški idealistai. Pragmatikai buvo tie, kurie čia nėjo, kurie ten ramiai kažkur slapstėsi ir galvojo, kaip čia prisitaikys, kas čia bus, kai ta valdžia ateis. Bet tu pažiūrėk, gerai, tie romantikai atlaikė ir koks rezultatas viso to. Tas romantizmas atnešė visą šitą grožį. Mes įsitvirtinom tarp laisvų, turtingų, gerų, nuostabių, kūrybingų vakarų. Tu pats studijuoji dabar Bolonijos universitete, viešpačia, be tų to nebūtų be tos svajonės. Mes būtume, aš nežinau, kokius miltus būtume stovėtų sutrinti. Tai čia toks keistas dalykas, jeigu tu sieki gyvenime kažko daugiau negu tavo vargšas kūnelis, tu pastatai nuostabius dalykus, nes tu sieki kažko daugiau. O tie visi žmonės, kurie tiesiog saugo savo kėdutę, saugo savo atlyginimą, bijo rizikuoti, prisitaiko prie bet kokio šeiminko, kuris ateina, bando prisikimšti savo kišenes. Velnias, jie paprastai blogai ir patys baigia ir tikrai blogą darbą valstybei padaro. Nes juos greitai tie visi turtingesni velniukai perperka. Jie tiesiog tam ir skirti, kad perpirkt, pajusdami tą žmogaus silpnybės. Bet žiūrint į ateitį, toj pačioj aikštėje, čiagi už mūsų sienų, šiandien Naujamiesčio skyriuje atėjo, įsivaizduok, jaunuolis iš tų protestų. Ir jis taip įdomiai pasakė, mano visi tėvai balsavo visą laiką už jūsų partiją, bet žinot, pabuvau aš tose protestuose, ir kas, jie baigėsi. O ašgi turiu dirbti kiekvieną dieną už tą tėvynę, jis kažkoks ten roboto technikos, ten kosmoso specialistas, jis ten kažką daro su dronais, kosminis, nuostabus vaikas, žinai. Ir aš pagalvoju, palauk, žiūrėk, jis turi darbą, jis turi pinigus, jis viską turi, bet jisai atėjo, nes jisai supranta, kad kažką reikia su to daryti. Ir čia tas jausmas toks intuityvus, keistas, žinai, ką mes nešiojam savo širdise, tėvų, senelių pagimdytas, bet turbūt jisai vienintelis, kuris gali šitą Lietuvą atlaikyti. Ir prieš tą jausmą jokie tankai, žinai, jiems jau mes nebijom tų tankų. Aš šiandien kažkam pasakiau, per sausio 13 aš stovėjau prieš vieną tanką su kitų vyrdėrybininkų dėl narystės Europos Sąjungų, Klaudijų Manioko. Abudu šaukėm, rėkėm ten kažką tankui. Buvo smagu, mes buvom keisti romantikai, europiečiai, žinai. Buvo, aišku, grėsminga, bet nieko kažkaip nebijojom. Ir abudu po to simboliškai dėrėjomės dėl narystės ir įstojom. Tai, nežinau, tas romantizmas, kurį ir tavo tėvelis, atsimenu, iš Amerikos atvežė, mes ten pirmi studentai, tas PMI, jis yra užkrečiantis. Aš tada, dėl ko galbūt ir Lozoraičio kompanijoje man tai buvo miela, dėl ko man tai miela buvo Damkui padėti. Nes, yra kažkas tokio nuostabaus ir tam laisvam Amerikos pasaulyje, kas jungia. Gal čia ta laisvė, gal čia žmogaus orumas, gal tos visos vertybės. Aišku, amerikiečiai yra daug religingesni už mus. Čia bijau nukrypti savo tos krikščioniškus apmąstymus. Žinai, kur Dievo nėra, ten paprastai problemos ateina. Ir man tie čekai, žinai, ta visa Vidurio Europa, gan tokia, kaip pasakyti, gerąją prasme išpindėjus, ten viskas gerai, bet jie neturi ko tikėti, jie neturi kur eiti, jie neturi strategijos. O tos tautos, kurios tiki kažko, turi ilgalaikę tūkstantmetę strategiją, žydai tie patys. Jie turi milžiniškas tradicijas. Pažiūrėk, kiek daug jie pasiekė. Nes viskas gydulkės virsta. Čia nepyk už tokį jau kunigišką, taip sakant, išpažinti.
Kaip tik tos norėjau, jūs labai gerai užvedėte šitą romantizmo, idealizmo temą. Iš tiesų, aš kaip minėjau, šiuo metu esu Bolonijoje ir užsukau savaitgalį į knygų mūgę, knygų turgelį tokį ir nusipirkau fotografijos knygą, tokį garsaus italų fotografą. Ir būtent toje knygoje yra pavaizduotos nuotraukos iš Prahos sukilimo, iš Vengrijos sukilimo. Ir manau, tai labai gražiai susirašo su tuom, ką mes kalbam dabar, kad šitie žmonės per priespaudą, užguiti visiškai juodojo komunizmo, užguiti šito viso zakoną mąstysenos ir moralės nebuvimo, vis tiek šitie žmonės, dauguma studentai, ar dažnu atveju pagrindė tas pamatas buvo pastatytas ant studentų judėjimų, jie jautė ir tą meilę tėvynei, meilę žmogui, meilę vertybėms ir idealams, ir tai juos privertė eiti gatvę, stoti prieš tankus ir atstovėti už savo tėvynį. Ir mes irgi panašiai padarėme, ir ne tik, kad panašiai, mes taip pat padarėme per sausio 13, per visus mūsų laisvės judėjimus. Mes sugebėjome atstovėti. Ir todėl man yra taip gėda ir šlykštu, kai mes šiais laikais, kai mes tiek esame pasiekę, kaip Lietuva tapome ES nare, esame tikri europiečiai, esame gyvename geriausiai, kaip tik esame gyvenę per visą mūsų valstybės istoriją. Bet vis tiek atsiranda tokie, atsiprašant už necenzūrinę leksiką, bet tokie šūdžiai, kaip Vėgėlė, Žemaitaitis, tokie piktadariai, tie ne tik, kad narcizai.
Tu absoliučiai teisingai sakai, bet dabar, kai tu man kalbėjot prieš mano akis, šią savaitę buvo mano akis tas tokiu jaunu žmogum, tavo amžiaus Katelynų, socdemas, kuris visų pykčių man aiškino, kad atėjo laikas visiškai atsisakyti vertybių politikos. Perinam į pilną pragmatizmą. Ir iš esmės tai yra gaida, kurie atsikartoja tiek senojo Andriukaičio, tiek naujosios karalienės Raudonosios Ingos pasisakymuose. Atsisakom vertybių. Ir dabar taip iš šono pagalvokim, ką tai reiškia. Kas yra vertybė? Vertybė reiškia, tu sieki, tu esi maža tauta, tau čia gan nelengva gyventi, bet kaip kokie žydai ir kiti. Tu turi aukštesnį idealą, tu tiesiog turi neįmanomą idealą, tu tiesiog svajonę turi ir tu sieki svajonės. Tu, ir žinai, ir pasieki, nes daugybė kitų turtingų tautų nieko nesiekia. Geria vyną, laimingos ten važinėja, atostogauja. Ir įsivaizduok mažą tautą, kuri atsisako vertybių, pasiduoda pinigams, gerbūviui. Viskas čia įsivaikščio, šitie rūmai Seimo atlaikė tik dėl tų vertybių. Mūsų rusų raudonieji, tie patys, kurie šlavė vengrus ir čekus, jie čia sustojo, nes pamatė mūsų beprotišką kvailą tikėjimą, kad mes laimėsim, kaip ukrainiečiai šiandien. Sako, mums nusispjauti, o mes laimėsim, mes tą galim. Ir kosmosas, jau 4 metus laikosi ir galima sakyti, dar biškį padėjus, jie gali iš tikrųjų laimėti ir gali pasiekti. Tai žodžiu, pagrindinė tezė iš šios savaitės, visi šitie vertybių atsisakytojai, jie tuoj pat gali tapti Orbanais, tuoj pat gali tapti rusų ir baltarusų režimų tarnautojais, nes kai tu neturi ko siekti ir kai tu trokšti tik pinigų, klausyk, tave perpirks visos šitos mafijos, visi šitie piktadariai labai greitai. Turi.
Tikrai taip. Ir kaip aš mėgstu sakyti, nepaleiskime tos lietuviškosios svajonės. Kaip ir buvo amerikietiška svajonė, galbūt jinai dar vis yra, bet aš žinau 100%, kad dar vis žinau, kad yra ir tikiu, kad yra lietuviškoji svajonė. Tad ačiū Žygi už pokalbį ir linkiu mūsų klausytojams labai gero likusio pokalbio su István, Jėzu Marija, nepakartosiu.
Gyarmati, jo.
Gyarmati. Ir jis labai taip gražiai pristato būtent tą vengrų, sakykime, tautos net tokį požiūrį į tai, kas vyksta dabar, labai taip įvairiai ir netradiciškai. Tai tikrai geras pokalbis.
Gal tik pabaigai, kai jis baigė taip kalbėti, galvoju, kaip sunku tiem vengram, jie tokioj depresijoje gyvena, jie neturi ko siekti. Aš pagalvoju, dėl pasakėm, žinai, nes mes dar tikimės, varom į priekį, mes kovojam, žinai, tai tikrai gerai, kad tai darom, nes gal tai ir yra vienintelis stebuklas, ant kurio stovim.
Amen. Ačiū Jums, Žygi.
István, can I just introduce my young assistant? He is third generation Lithuanian American, born in Lithuania, but his grandfather and father returned from Chicago, from all those places to fight for our independence. So more or less, he opened the doors for us in different places. Like you opened for me the doors in Washington, D.C. I still remember I was so depressed with reset of President Obama, and you wisely indicated very different doors from whom I entered, and Hillary Clinton became the friend and actually shielded us a bit from that reset. But really, thank you very much for everything you did for me then under those difficult days in DC.
Yeah, but it was difficult, but much more present than today.
Oh, yes, exactly. Okay, so I know that our time is limited. So, Vincentas, why don't you start with your questions? Like, we will ask different questions in parallel, trying to... Oh, my God, this is wonderful.
I have a young assistant, too, so...
Oh, my God. Well, a bit, yeah.
Understood. All right. So once again, thank you for agreeing to join us on the show today. Just to begin, right? We just had this huge meeting in Budapest in Hungary, the so-called CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee, where you had, far-right leaders essentially from all around Europe coming to Budapest to, I guess, have a powwow, as the Americans say, right? But what happened there? We see so much love to the current and hopefully not for long Prime Minister of Hungary, Orban, and Trump, while at the same time Orban has this incredible love for Putin. What's going on here? Why does Trump love Orban so
much? You probably know that this was not the first time that this meeting took place in Hungary. They've been doing this 2 or 3 years already before. This is a gathering of what's called extreme right political leaders, and I'm very hesitant to call them extreme right. I remember, Zigis, when we were working together, you were extreme right. So
I am moderate, but okay. I'm EPP.
Yes. There are people who start as moderate and then become extreme right, especially when they don't move, but the party or their party moves. So they became from the right wing of the party, left wing of the party, or Németh Zsolt. Well, Németh Zsolt started as the extreme right wing of Fidesz, and now he is the left wing of Fidesz, although he didn't change an inch. So I think we really need to be careful for 2 reasons. The first reason is important, but not the most important, but that, like it or not, these forces are gaining influence in Europe. They are not determining European policies, and I don't think they ever will. But the interesting thing is that you don't need to be majority in order to have an influence. And I think they do have an influence, direct influence, but also indirect influence, that they push the moderate parties to the right because they have to compete who is more right, who is more radical. But the thing is that it's always useful to examine what have I made wrong. And I think if we analyze the mainstream in Europe, the mainstream has been very wrong, and unfortunately, it's only changing very slowly. That the mainstream did not dare to address very burning issues because they were considered politically incorrect. And they might be politically incorrect in one context, but they are issues that are really burning in our face. And as we were not able, if I might call ourselves mainstream, if we do not address these issues, then we leave the field to the what's now extreme right. And now, of course, the extreme right takes advantage of it and offers solutions, which are no solutions, but they are simple. So they are addressing issues that are interesting for the public, and they offer solutions that are not complicated, easy to understand. While we do not address in reality these issues, if we do, then we really scratch the first surface only. And if we offer any kind of solution, then the solution is so complicated and difficult and long-term and costly that people don't like it. So I think we need to somehow obtain the ability to deal with these issues. The second thing is that if you look at these extreme right parties, if we brandmark all of them extreme right, we really push them inside this so-called patriotic group to the right. Because can you compare the Argentinian president with Giorgia Meloni? So Giorgia Meloni, is she extreme right? I don't think. She was even called fascist in the beginning, but she is, I think, one of the leading politicians in Europe today. So we have to be careful not to unite them under pressure, but probably approach them with some more acceptable solutions. And we have to be prepared because we might have the Front National in France, if not a majority, but a decisive factor. Not Marine Le Pen, but what's his name? Baradar, not Baradar.
Bardella. But if I may, just
so
just
the young guy. So Marine Le Pen is suffering the fate of many who thought that they appoint somebody to replace them temporarily, and then the guy appointed does not allow them to return. I think that's what will happen to her in France. We might have Farage in the UK, although I hope not, but you cannot exclude it. So we have to live with them and also make a difference, because I mean, if you call this patriotic or whatever thing, it's if we put Meloni and let's say Meloni and Farage under the same roof, that does not do any good. Or even I would
if I may draw your attention to something, what we're seeing here is that even with or without our pressure, so to say, they are coming under one roof. So, and we're seeing the really bizarre thing, and looking on the big scale of things, that you're seeing the current Hungarian Prime Minister Orbán, who is, famous for being a big fan of Putin, but then you also have Trump and the current MAGA wing of the Republican Party also being buddy with Orbán. So what's the story here? Are you saying that this is our fault because of pressure and calling them the far right, or is there something deeper going on here?
But the relationship to Putin is also very different within this group. I mean, again, Meloni and Orban or Kaczynski and whoever are very different. So that's why I suggest that we should not take them as a homogeneous group, but try to influence them as much as we can. There are, of course, some who cannot be influenced. I don't think the AfD in Germany is ready for any discussion or dialogue. But I think we should also talk to the Polish, the Kaczynski guys, and or whoever the successor of Kaczynski will be, because I think he's also on his way out. So, what I want to suggest is that we should have a much more differentiated approach towards this group.
But I agree. Can I just maybe rephrase it maybe in some other way? We have good relations with Meloni and PiS because they are not pro-Russian. But can you explain me the American interest to be a friend of Orban, who is actually doing everything to destroy the European unity on Ukraine, and who is the best friend of Putin and Xi, two American enemies? How can you be a friend of someone who is the best friend of your enemies? So,
that's your question includes a presupposed judgment that Russia or Putin is an enemy of Trump. And I'm not sure that this is the case. First of all, it's a personal. No American president has ever been, as much as I can tell, so subjective and independent of the facts as Donald Trump. So I think that's one thing. The second thing is, I mean, let's be a little frank. I never said so in public, but let's be. What is in America's interest in the Ukrainian-Russian war? What is more important for Donald Trump after the war? Is it important for him to have good relations with Ukraine, or is it important for him to have good relations with Russia? And I think his judgment is, and there is truth in it, that good relations with Russia is more important for him. Where he makes a big mistake, and many others, including many Europeans, historically also made a mistake, that you might want to be friends of Russia, but you cannot be friends of Russia. The Russians will always cheat you, use you as much as you can. But Donald Trump does not recognize this. He thinks that he can somehow talk nicely to Putin, offer some technical or economic advantages, and then they will be close to be friends. And he also thinks that he can, by doing this, he can divide Russia and China, which is also, I think, a dream or a nightmare dream. I think so. I think that's behind, and therefore Trump it doesn't disturb Trump if somebody is a friend of Putin. On the contrary, he might use it as. And there is one more thing. I mean, I think Donald Trump is in some respects very very much like Putin. He would like to be as much an authoritarian leader as Putin, but he cannot, because the United States is ultimately still a democracy, whatever Donald Trump tries to do with it. So it's also, I think, and as I said, he's a very personally motivated individual, which is, I think, extremely dangerous for American interests, because he is really causing. I mean, just look at what he did yesterday. That he was talking about the talks between Iran and the United States, that they are extremely successful, etc. So any Iranian leader who really had talks or would want to have talks with the Americans, there are not too many, would have to contradict. So he cannot judge the weight of his words.
So do you say, just my last question in this sequence, really, and Vincenta, please follow after. So do you agree that Trump personal interests not always represent American interests? Because if I'm American, I would be engaged with Europe. I would be in love with Europe because I more or less created Europe. You know, Brussels is more or less my creation. It's a lot of money. It's high-tech economy. Why should I be a friend of Russians, who is backward, strange, aggressive country that is destroying Europe and is actually now vassal of China? It's a number one enemy of. So, do you make a clear distinguishing between personal interest and American interest there?
Well, I think Donald Trump really thinks he is serving American interests, and kind of collateral advantage is the personal interest of his family and the economy. But there are many people who are much smarter than Trump, who also believe that Jared Kushner, for instance, Steve Witkoff is an idiot, but Jared Kushner is smart. So I think what I would think if I were American, that Europe is a done deal. Europe will always be allied with the United States, more or less, because Europe needs the United States. They think more than the United States needs Europe. So they want to be. You don't have to invest too much in Europe because they are friends by definition, by nature. But that also means that Europe economically is a competitor. We have a strong inferiority complex in Europe, that we are inferior to America in economy, etc. We do not want, or we cannot use our superiority in terms of values of our life. If you compare productivity of America and Europe, the biggest reason that productivity in Europe is lower than in America is that we live better than the Americans. We have more free days, more vacations. We spend more for social expenses, and that's why we are less competitive. So ask any European, do you want to be as competitive as the Americans and give up your vacation? No. So I think we should be proud of it. I think we should forget about our inferiority complexes that vis-a-vis American. It's also not true that America is financing European defense. We made a little calculation how much America spends for European defense. Because we came to the conclusion, and I can show you the figures, that most of American defense budget goes to outside Europe. They have 720 foreign bases. They have 11 aircraft carrier groups, and only one is serving Europe. So it's approximately $200 billion that America spends yearly for European defense. It's less than the European countries spend for defense. But we never dare to tell this to ourselves. We admit, we are weak and we cannot defend ourselves. We need the Americans, etc. Yes, we need the Americans, but they need us. So I was telling to one of my American friends that Europe is now waking up and spending more and doing more. I mean, Lithuania being on the forefront. I mean, you have to be. Have you seen the American NATO exercises about how the war starts? It always starts with Lithuania, and Lithuania is lost because the decision-making of Germany with the German brigade in the Baltics is slow. So you are in the middle of trouble, as always, almost always. But anyway, so we should tell the Americans that yes, we are preparing to defend Europe. It is in our interest. But we do a big service to you with this, because we free up much of your money and much of your troops to be used somewhere else. So we are doing a favor to the Americans by this. Anyway, so I think that's the American situation is very, very complex, to say the least. And also you have to go to the right places to learn what America is. Everybody is talking about the American national security strategy, which is it is like the 20th Congress of the Soviet Communist Party. Do you know how many times the name Trump is mentioned in this national security strategy? 23 times. It's better than Comrade Stalin ever did. So, but if you want to know the truth, go, and I'm sure you did, read the American National Defense Strategy. If you compare to the two, I can send you, we made a little comparison. We compared the two. It looks like two different countries. And if you want to know the American strategy, read Elbridge Colby, the strategy of denial. I was giving a lecture and I put two books on display. Kissinger's Nuclear Weapons and Foreign Policy and Elbridge Colby Strategy of Denial, because I think these are two concepts that have changed the world. Because Henry Kissinger reacted to the appearance of nuclear weapons, new world, new wars, new foreign policy, and Elbridge Colby is doing the same with the drones and cybersecurity. So America is very complex. Donald Trump is not only America. The problem is that there are still Trumpists in America, less and less, but there are, and there are implications of this foreign policy of Donald Trump that do irreparable damage. It is irreparable. The trust between Europe and America is irreparable. We will be still good allies, and we can be still allies, but it's irreparable. What is worse, even worse than that, is the irreparable damage of the trust between America and Israel. That's not going to be repaired anytime soon, because I saw opinion polls that it's exactly the same number of Americans support now Palestinians as 10 years ago supported Israel. It's about 70+%. So,
István, I have a question exactly on Israel, or maybe Vincentas, you want to put on anti-Semitism as well. Yeah.
Just to bring it back to what's going on, in the coming months in Hungary, and actually talking about the CPAC as well, as we mentioned at the very beginning. We have in our current ruling coalition here in Lithuania, one of our governing parties is, I wouldn't dare call it far right or far left, is just super populist, Trojan, like Russian Trojan horse, that is led by a severely and a notoriously anti-Semitic leader, right? And so it was very interesting that their representatives of this Trojan horse party went to Hungary to support Orban, who's ostensibly this the greatest friend of the Jews since who knows, since the creation of Israel. And yet in that same platform you have wildly anti-Semitic people such as the representatives of Naujoje from Lithuania. What's going on?
Is this honest from Orban? Is he really big friend of Israel, or is just a fake? Because he's the best friend of our best, worst, crazy anti-Semitic leaders in Lithuania.
I have known Orban since 1987. And I mentored him, so we had a discussion with George Soros that we did the same early days, and I don't regret it, because he's an extremely smart, strategically thinking person, not always right, to say the least, but he's very, very smart. So I can tell you with full confidence two things. He is not anti-Semitic. So his friendship with Israel is, of course, because he is also, and you will see when you get older you get, the more emotional you get. But I think it's very much the sympathy with Netanyahu. But it's not only that. I remember when there was a small 2-year gap between Netanyahu and Netanyahu with Bennett, the relationship remained the same, and it will remain the same even if Netanyahu ever departs, which I don't see happening in the next 200 years, but anytime. So he's. But I can tell you something that is even more surprising. And don't ask me about the explanation, because I don't have an explanation. He doesn't like the Russians. So he is not pro-Russian at all, personally. He doesn't like the Russians, and as any strong personality, he doesn't like to be pushed around by anybody, even with Putin. There is something, I think, economy behind in the first instance. And one more thing, which I will tell in a moment, that is pushing him towards Russia. The thing is, it was about 5 or 6 years ago, more than 5 or 6 years ago, that some of us were discussing the future, and we said that and I think it was true, that Hungary is too small for Orban. He wants to be a European leader. And how can you being a Hungarian prime minister, how can you be a European leader? If you remain the good guy who is doing everything that Brussels wants, you will not be important. It will be just pocketed by the big guys, and scratch your head from time to time that, okay, you are a good guy, but that's it. So the only way doing this is to be a bad guy, to cause trouble. And it happened. Now maybe he is overdoing it. That's another issue. But there is one thing you shouldn't forget, and I hope I'm not overly optimistic, that in 3 weeks elections will be over, hopefully. I hope there will be elections. I hope they will be over. I hope there will be a peaceful transfer of power from one government to the other. It might be the same party, but it will be a new government, a new Orban government, or not. But let's take it will be a new Orban government. I think Orban will have to consolidate his situation, because economy is in deep trouble. So and he will not get enough support from Russia or China. I think he will have to consolidate Hungarian relations with the European Union to some extent. And as far as I hear from Brussels is ready and determined to do it one way or another. So the same goes for Ukraine. I think this campaign against Ukraine is really shame, but I think it's for electoral purposes, not only, but this overdoing it is for the elections. And I think Zelensky is also very stupid in this respect, but that's another issue. So I expect change after the elections, even if Orban remains prime minister.
Well, since you mentioned, sorry, Eugene, if I may, since you've mentioned the elections, could you walk us through that? I mean, you mentioned this sort of dubious question about, whether or not there will even be a peaceful transition of power. I mean, this was unthinkable in Europe just 10, 20 years ago, and now we're having these discussions. So what's going on in Hungary right now, just before the elections? And actually, maybe you could enlighten us about your predictions. What's going to happen?
You mean in Russia or what?
No, in Hungary.
Sorry?
In Hungary.
In Hungary? Or, sorry, the sound is not very good, so I...
My apologies. So
just the prediction of the elections. So what do you think? Because there is some rumors that Orban might even steal elections. Lukashenko is stealing it and so on. So do you think, he is winning for long already, and it's not always, he took a lot of power from political opposition, from media. He built this economic empire. That's actually the big difference in the Baltics, that we privatized a lot, and you had the state-run capital that was very much very well used to build that kind of semi-autocracy. So do you think we will have elections, normal elections?
I think there are a lot of inbuilt irregularities in the election system in Hungary. It doesn't mean stealing elections, but the level play field is non-existent. So it's very much preferring the ruling party. That might actually play against Orbán, because the Hungarian election system is such that the winner gets more than they actually won. So Orbán government got 2/3 of the seats in the parliament with about 42% of the votes. So that might happen also now. There are two scenarios that are going around here in Hungary. One is the Romanian scenario, which is likely to happen. I mean, if they decide, then it could happen, because the Constitutional Court in Hungary is not at the height of its competence, to say the least. But the joke is that I'm making that. Of course, the argument would be that it's a Ukrainian influence that preferred the opposition, and that's why they won. But I hear jokes, but only half jokes, that if the opposition loses the elections, they can do the same, referring to the Russian influence to the elections. So it's a double-edged sword, probably, but then, of course, the Constitutional Court will play a big role. But the most dangerous scenario for me is not this. The most dangerous scenario for me is a Russian false flag operation, which already was mentioned by Washington Post, the possibility, Washington, New York Times, and The Guardian, that they were referring to their own secret services, especially the Brits. And the Brits are pretty good in this area. That the Russians are thinking about it, not that they decided or they will do it, but they are thinking about it. And that's, I think, they don't have to ask the Hungarians. So they don't need to even consult the Hungarians. They can do it on their own. And that is very difficult to predict what will be the impact. But let's hope for the best. It's an unusual situation, because it's not a simple election. It's if people compare it with the elections in Poland, but in Poland the consequences of losing the elections were much less than in Hungary. So it's very difficult to imagine how it will happen, how it could happen afterwards. And of course, it's very difficult to predict the outcome, because it's basically 50-50. Looks like 50-50. And of course, in opinion polls, the margin of error is big, although there are institutes who predict a 20% lead of the opposition, others say 10% of the government. So it's very difficult to know what is the real situation. What is the interesting thing, if you look at the campaign, and I finish here, look at the campaign, it's a very unusual campaign, because the government is campaigning foreign policy. The message is that we are the only ones who can keep Hungary out of the war, especially a war, not necessarily shooting war, but even shooting war with Ukrainians, supported by Brussels. That's basically the election message. They don't talk about the economy, while the opposition talks about economy, but they don't talk about foreign policy, because they know that foreign policy is a difficult terrain for them, because if they contradict the government, they will always be accused, and not only by the government, as many voters would agree, that they are dragging Hungary into a conflict or a war situation. So they are not talking about foreign policy. It's very difficult, very interesting. I have never seen this, not only in Hungary, but I've never seen this kind of division of the campaigning, that one is playing on foreign policy and the other one is playing on economy.
István, just my last question really on this Russian element, because I don't get it seriously. Hungary for me is some kind of champion of freedom from which we learned. A lot of our students went to Soros University and other universities in Hungary to learn freedom. And now when you say Orban is doing this kind of peace campaign, well, Georgian Dream was doing the same campaign.
Yes.
Lukashenko is doing so. Just about the Russian presence, because why I said compared him to Lukashenko. Lukashenko is also receiving a lot of cheap Russian oil, other stuff like Orban. He puts a lot of stuff in his pocket, and then he's behaving like a king, but he's in the pocket of Russians. So what about Russian influence here? Because it's growing, it's spreading in Slovakia, in Czech Republic. You don't know how far it will spread. We have parties who speaks like Orban, honestly. So is it just kind of personality, or it's Russia playing the same strings?
I think Russia is playing very. I hesitate to use the word smart, but for their purposes, they are playing very smart. They are discovering the weaknesses of democracy in general, and short-term dictatorships are always in advantage vis-a-vis democracies. Long-term not, but short-term yes, and especially now that the situation is so fragile, that so many things are changing in the world. People are absolutely confused. There are no guiding principles. There is the communism is gone. The religion is basically not guiding the people anymore. We have very few religious people in Central Europe. So there is no guidance to get from, and the internet is very dangerous in this respect, because you live in your own world, and you think that everybody thinks like you, because you only talk to people who think like you, and you get all information, but you don't want the information that provides you with some news or explanations. You want to hear, and you choose information which is reinforcing what you already think. So there is no Financial Times or BBC or whatever anymore for most of the people. So I think, and there is an overall value crisis in the world, but also the world order is in shambles, and we are part of it. So I think it's people are very hungry to hear simple solutions, and what the Russians offer is simple solution, not only in terms of politics or social system, but also in terms of economy. Buy Russian oil and it's cheap, and we will provide you with that. And it's not surprising. I mean, if you look at Germany under Angela Merkel, that was a strategy: combine German technology with Russian cheap raw materials. That was the policy. So the Germans woke up for some reason, but to a large extent, But I think Central Europe is much more vulnerable to this. I hope that yes, that what helps a lot is America. I mean, Donald Trump did a lot of damage, but now it is destroying. I think some fundamental issues that are the basis of our societies. So I think the confusion is one of the reasons, and we have to admit the Russians are playing very, very smart. And not to mention that I don't want to compare China to Russia because it's very different. I think China is much better than Russia, or Russia is much worse than China. Let's put it this way. But I think the Chinese influence and the impression, people are very impressed by China because China is doing a lot of good things. I mean, for their own, the people are living much better. They are leaders in economy, in technology, etc. So, what is the message? The message is that the message doesn't come from Russia; it comes from China, but reinforces Russia too. That if you have an authoritarian regime which is competent, it's much better than democracy. So I think this is the most difficult to handle message, but it comes true. And at first glance, it's true because just like China, I mean, people don't know that China is not doing any more that good, but they think it is. So I think that's the impact that we have. And let's admit it's these countries. The Czech Republic is different, and Babiš is not Fico. Kaczynski is not Fico either. So I think the Polish PiS, and even ANO are different from whatever Fico's friends, etc. I use Fico because I don't want to use my own country if possible, but I think it is limited, and it can be forced. I mean, what's happening in Poland or Romania, let's say, I think this new Romanian government is doing quite well under the circumstances. Babiš is not that wild card as the others and as many others hope. But there is Meloni, so probably, hopefully, I hope it's not wishful thinking. This will last, but as I said in the beginning, it will not overwhelm Europe.
God willing. Thank you once again for joining us. It was very interesting and insightful, and I wish Hungary the best ahead of the elections.